Hey guys, Dr. Ben here, FA Well Centers. Welcome. I'm here today with our latest addition, Dr. Jenny. She's our latest FA doctor joining the team, going to be working with patients all over the country. Super excited about that. But today we're going to get in depth into a little bit more on the hormone side and really what we're seeing, some pretty crazy numbers that are coming out. And when you look at it, it's like, if this trend continues, I don't even know if humans are going to exist in 100 years. And I don't try to be dramatic, but if you look at the statistics, we're talking about testosterone going down, sperm count going down, and an average of 1% per year. And so if that trend continues, eventually there won't be any sperm or testosterone left. So welcome. Pop down below where you guys are watching from. Love to see all over the country, all over the world. And these stats are coming from all over the world as well, not just from the United States. A lot of the research that's coming out is actually from Europe. It's from New Zealand, all over, and it's crazy. So let's get into it, and I'm going to give you some of these stats, and Dr. Jenny's going to give a little bit of her take and what she sees in that female world and the hormones and everything involved with that. So here's what we're looking at. Sperm count going down an average of 1% per year since the 70s. Testosterone in males going down 1% per year on average, and upwards of 50, even up to 60% in some studies in some countries, those are going down. Miscarriages have gone up 50%. Erectile dysfunction has gone up 50%. It's kind of not really going up there, but so we're it's a real thing. This isn't just something that we're like, oh my gosh, it's just, oh well, guys are having to take Cialis and some of these drugs. It is legitimately happening. Women are having many more miscarriages, and it's not just some people go, oh, it's just because we're recognizing more of these, but there's more going on. And what have you seen in your years in practice and working with women, from that hormone perspective?
Absolutely. I see women all day, every day that are struggling with painful periods, lots of cramping, heavy bleeding, and it's making them tired, and it's making them not able to do their life and take care of themselves and their families. And so what do? The first thing they do, they run out and they visit their OBGYN. So that is their first thought. And what I see repeatedly again and again, if someone is under 40, they say, oh, well, let's give you the birth control pill. That'll regulate your cycle. Or if they're over 40, then they get put on some kind of hormone replacement, whether it's bioidentical
or not. The interesting part, and note, is if you are on birth control pill, that is not hormone suppression.
It's extra hormones.
It's hormone replacement.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of people don't recognize that, is that this is adding extra estrogen in, it's adding other hormones. It's not just suppressing your hormones, it's actually adding them in. So Kara asked what's causing it, and we're going to get to that in a second, because there's a lot of different things. What are you seeing as far as just hormone disruption in the first place?
Well, the most common thing I see is women that are in a situation where they have too much estrogen relative to progesterone. It's like this nice teeter-totter. And like you were saying before, when you add birth control pills and hormone replacement therapy, the number one thing in most of those is estrogen. So you're taking a woman who already has too much or imbalanced estrogen, and then it's like adding gas to the fire. So that's what I see a lot is.
Where are women getting a lot of these estrogens besides just birth control and hormone replacement?
There are two ways I think that they're becoming estrogen dominant. The first is they're taking in toxins from the outside world. And these are things they're called Xenoestrogens, which means they mimic estrogen. Things like phthalates and parabens in slathering on that really smelly, delicious vanilla body lotion that's full of hormone disrupting chemicals, parabens namely.
Yeah, we had a talk a couple months ago about phthalates and how they were showing to be huge endocrine disruptors, and it's causing a lot of issues. And this isn't just some fringe thing that some natural lotion companies are talking about. This is legit. Studies are coming out left and right, throwing off these hormones. What about plastics and things like that?
Absolutely. So that's where, those water bottles are kind of squishy, they're soft, they're everywhere. They're the little 16 ounce with the tiny little cap on them. The soft plastic like that. Think about what happens to that. It sits in a hot warehouse. It's kind of this not very hard plastic anyway. So that leaks into your water bottle, and then you down this.
And that's all some people drink. We were down in Florida over spring break, and people were leaving Costco with just like tons of these cases of those water bottles, and that's all they drink out of.
And for their kids, they buy them for their kids, and like, here, send,
And then you wonder why the boys are getting man boobs and the girls are menstruating at 8, 9, 10 years old. What about what other ways are we getting these plastics into our body, these estrogen disruptors?
We microwave things in plastic containers, or we put some kind of saran wrap or a plastic wrap over the top of them. That's another way to do it. And then the other thing that I see is that the liver is really important in hormone clearance. So we're just being bombarded with toxins right and left now. And so now we've got a lot of women, or people in general, that their liver is becoming sluggish and slow. So there's a process called methylation, and that can be impaired, and liver can be slow and things like that. So now you're not clearing the hormones.
Yes. So
like you should.
So there's two things. It's kind of this bucket, and we have these holes that can spill out to the side out of that bucket. And so we're pouring it in. So you're microwaving your plastics. You're drinking out of water bottles, plastic water bottles, you're slathering up, you're getting all this endocrine disruption, and then you should be able to eliminate those out like you need to. But what happens is we start plugging up those holes, and that liver is not going to be able to process it like it needs to, and so we're building it up and we're not getting it out, and so that overall picture just increases in there. And
Absolutely.
so and as far as guys go, similar thoughts when we're talking about decreased testosterone, decrease and I'll get to the testosterone in a second, but even decrease in sperm count, which is really, really interesting. And that's the scary one, because if you don't have enough testosterone, not enough muscle tone, motivation, things like that. But if you don't have enough sperm count, and your sperm count has dropped in half of what it was in the 60s and 70s, then you're like, man, as a human species, how are we going to reproduce? You're going to have to like freeze sperm and try to do artificial insemination to actually get women pregnant.
Yeah, and I see a fair number of women who come to me and their first thought is, what's wrong with me? I've had all these miscarriages, or I can't conceive, or whatever. And about half the time it's not them. Yep. So it's
the dad in there. The research shows a third of the time it's just dad, a third of the time it's just mom, and a third of the time it's mom and dad. So that's 50% of it is that sperm quality. And I always think about this: you got your lion out in Africa, and the male lion he sits up on the hill. The females go and eat or kill the whatever antelope or whatever it is, and then the male comes in, kind of scoots him out, gets the best pick of it, and then goes back up on the hill. He's not sitting up there drinking beers and
right?
Pizza Hut pizza and all those things. So beloved Casanova, is this since the COVID shot? No, so unfortunately, we can't just blame it on something in the last couple of years. This has been going on. If you look at the research, even that there was a study that I saw from the 1970s to 2011 that it had been going down considerably during that time. It definitely is a decrease in this overall reproducibility of the human species. So it's really interesting how extreme this is getting. The next thing we talk about for guys with low testosterone is actually the blood sugar issue. And so for guys, a lot of times when they're having this insulin resistance, this metabolic syndrome, they're converting their testosterone over to estrogen. And what do you see there for symptoms for guys?
Yeah, that's called aromatization. There's a pathway where that happens. And what I see there is men becoming softer, so to speak. They get, I call them man boobs, but they come in and they're developing breast tissue and things.
Some can even start lactating. It can get that bad.
Yeah, I was talking about that with somebody else the other day. And So just, and really the number one thing is they say, I'm tired, I don't have any drive. And I'm
Low
not just
motivation.
talking about libido, I'm talking about, I don't even want to get out of bed and go to work and support my family. Or I used to be motivated to just go do my life. And now I just feel like, what's the point? And that's a horrible way to live.
Yeah, absolutely. So testosterone, muscle tone, motivation, low libido, all of those things, if we don't have enough testosterone, both men and women. But you look at, if you looked at pictures of, they call our greatest generation of, a bunch of World War II guys in their 18 to 22-year-old range and no shirts on, and then you compare that to average, pick another 50 guys in the 18 to 22-year-old range now, it would look totally different. And hormones is part of that. That we're filming on a phone right now, and phone, video games, lack of activity. There's a, we could call it demasculinization going on as well, where guys aren't encouraged to be guys anymore, and there's kind of this negative connotation from some of that as well. And so there's a lot of things going on here. But Sheila's got a question there. What is the best way for a man or woman to get our hormonal balance back? One of the first things we always talk about when we think about hormones is blood sugar stabilization. So for both men and women, we've got to get that blood sugar as steady as possible. And here's the deal. Just because your blood work comes back and says, oh, my glucose is at 96, or my A1C is at 5.2 or 5.3 or 5.4 or 5.0, and you don't have diabetes, does not mean your blood sugar is stabilized. What are some other thoughts as far as getting the hormones back into balance?
I think you nailed it spot on. It's very seldom is it actually really a hormone issue. It's always underlying. And I think, when I think of hormones, I think blood sugar and adrenals. And you almost can't have a conversation of one without the other, because if your blood sugar is all over the place, Dr. Ben, you mentioned that even if your A1C looks good, that's an average of what your blood sugar looks like over 3 months. But it doesn't look at what's happening. You can be steady and have a nice average, or you can be shooting up to 180, 190, and then bottoming out at 70 or 65. And that's what most people do. They ride this blood sugar roller coaster, and then it stresses out their adrenal system. And especially with women, as they transition into menopause, the ovaries take a back seat and they stop producing the estrogen. But guess what? Now the adrenals have
our stress
right.
glands.
Our stress handling system has a role in estrogen production as we make the transition. And so if we're stressing our body out every day by the foods we're eating and being on this ride, how do you think that transition to menopause is going to be? Those are the ones that come to see us because they're like, I'm a hot mess.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be like that. It's a normal
absolutely.
process.
So there are women that go through menopause that don't have hot flashes. There are women that go through and don't end up with vaginal dryness and all these other dry skin, all these crepey skin, all these different symptoms. So here's what we look at is, yes, we've got to make sure that we are not bringing these excess estrogens in, causing all these issues, making sure we're not stressing out those adrenals. We've all got jobs and cars and kids and COVID and presidents and gas prices at $5, $6, $7, depending on all you Californians out there. And so what we're looking at is blood sugar swings. We say it's the number one stressor to the adrenal glands, especially the dips. Every time it goes down, 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 you're stressing out those adrenals. A couple other things. You've got to make sure that the liver is detoxifying and processing out those hormones. But get this, the liver will package up those hormones so that they can be excreted through our digestive tract. And if we have dysbiosis, if our microbiome is out of balance, all the good stuff and bad stuff, the good bacteria, bad bacteria, if that's out of balance, it unpackages those hormones, and then they're going to be put back into the bloodstream, and then we're back at square one. So it's not just liver, you've got to have your gut working optimally as well.
Absolutely. Gut health is foundational. Blood sugar, adrenals, gut health, all foundational issues. If you clean those up, a lot of the other things just end up resolving because you've laid a good groundwork of good health.
And at F8, we don't start with hormone replacement. We don't start with, hey, put this pellet in your hip, start some DHEA, start some testosterone cream, whatever it is. We start with fixing the foundation. We've got to start with the basics. If you fix the basics, so many times a vast majority of your symptoms are going to get better as your systems improve. So this is something that's a very serious question as to why this is happening. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the traditional medical model are just looking at how can we replace hormones, just like with thyroid. Your thyroid's off, your thyroid numbers are off, take thyroid replacement hormone as opposed to fixing the problem. So what do we need to do? Well, it's a multifaceted approach. There's an emotional component, there's a stress component, there's the toxin intake component, there's the inability to remove these hormones out of our body. A lot of different things need to be brought about, but you can see it in our kids. You can see just flaccid, not having muscle tone, and if we go down another 50% from here, that's going to be a 75% reduction in testosterone sperm count. We're already seeing guys come in with testosterone in the 150 to 300 range, which for most of them they could compete as women in these new regulations. We see guys like that all the time,
and they don't feel good. When
absolutely.
I see those on labs, my heart is going, I just know this person doesn't feel good.
They feel horrible. When a female, we'll see females less than 2.5 on their testosterone. And so they're like, what was it, 2.5? I go, no, it's less than. It could be like -1. I don't know if it could be really negative, but it's less than 2.5. It could be negative. So we've got to fix the why. And that's what I want you guys to keep thinking about. It's not just a matter of, oh my gosh, what supplement can I take? But you've got to fix the why, the physiology of why your body's out of balance. So again, welcome, Dr. Jenny. And hormones, huge part of what we do, but not by just slathering on and addressing hormones directly. We've got to fix all these other systems. And then if somebody still needs some hormone support, then we can go down that path. So
sure, it's like you have a house that's falling apart. And if you don't repair the foundation and check the 2x4s and all that, what if you just slap some paint on it? That's what you're
put a new roof on and like, hey, look, now we're fixed.
That's what you do when you slap on hormones and you don't find the root cause. You're just dressing up bad.
Putting lipstick on it. Okay. All right, on that note. Okay, guys, great having you on. We've got to get to the underlying cause, and especially with this topic, this is pretty much a species changing issue that we're dealing with, and we've got to get that body working as well as possible. So stay strong, everybody. Make it a great day.